arrested a former CIA director and a sitting foreign ambassador after uncovering a massive drug trafficking network operating from inside protected diplomatic channels. Investigators seized large quantities of fentanyl, methamphetamine, and heroin, along with millions of dollars in laundered cash, during coordinated raids across Texas in a diplomatic compound. More than 40 diplomatic shipments were used to move narcotics under immunity protections, sovereignty in modern history, and dismantled a cartel-linked operation embedded within government structures. And we are here today to address one of the most sweeping, unprecedented, and historically significant federal operations carried out on American soil in recent decades. Authorities arrested senior figures tied to foreign drug cartels, dismantled a hidden trafficking network, and exposed corruption operating from inside institutions meant to protect the nation. What unfolded was not a typical law enforcement case. It's sovereignty that reached into diplomacy, intelligence, and international criminal finance. And it began with a single routine inspection in Texas. During a late shift at a Texas port of entry, Evan Marshall, a 31-year-old federal customs officer, reviewed documentation for a Mexican diplomatic shipment. The paperwork appeared flawless. Diplomatic seals were intact, no irregularities were noted on the manifest. But one detail stood out. The weight of the shipment was far higher than declared cargo could reasonably explain. Marshall was healthy, experienced, and methodical. He had no medical history and no disciplinary record. He requested a secondary inspection, following standard protocol. Within minutes, 2 senior supervisors arrived. Their response was immediate and decisive. The shipment was protected by diplomatic immunity. He was ordered to stand down. Marshall complied, but before ending his shift, he filed an internal report documenting the discrepancy, trusting that the system would review it through proper channels. 3 weeks later, Evan Marshall was found dead in his apartment. The official cause of death was listed as sudden cardiac arrest. No autopsy was ordered. No investigation followed. A young, healthy federal officer was gone, and the report he submitted quietly disappeared. But it did not disappear entirely. The documents surfaced weeks later on the desk of Special Agent Mark Ellison, a veteran FBI analyst known for identifying patterns hidden in administrative data. What concerned Ellison was not only the shipment, but the name attached to it. Jonathan P. Reeves, a former director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Ellison requested authorization for discreet surveillance. What investigators observed raised immediate alarms. Reeves's Texas residence showed unusual security measures. Reinforced doors, armed private contractors rotating in shifts, frequent visitors arriving late at night, large cash movements inconsistent with retirement income. A federal judge approved a no-knock warrant. At dawn, FBI tactical units approached Reeves' gated property. Before agents reached the door, automatic gunfire erupted. Reeves had hired mercenaries trained for combat. A quiet neighborhood became an active firefight. Flashbangs detonated. Agents advanced undercover. The exchange lasted nearly 10 minutes. Inside the house, Reeves was found attempting to destroy documents. The search revealed the first layer of the operation. Beneath floorboards, agents recovered large quantities of fentanyl and heroin. In the basement, military-grade rifles with serial numbers removed. Inside a steel safe, $18 million in cash and gold. Jonathan P. Reeves was arrested without immunity, without protection, and without public warning. But the arrest did not end the investigation. It expanded it. Analysis of Reeves' devices uncovered years of encrypted communications. Financial records traced funds through offshore accounts in Panama, Cyprus, and the British Virgin Islands. Shell companies' mass transfers. One entity appeared repeatedly at the center of transactions. Meridian Global Logistics, a company with no employees, no warehouse, and no physical presence. The communications revealed Reeves had partnered directly with the CJNG cartel in Texas, providing strategic intelligence, logistical planning, and protection routes. In return, he shared profits and expanded operations beyond narcotics to human trafficking, illegal weapons, and organ harvesting. Then investigators found the second name, Ambassador Alejandro Cruz Vega of Mexico. More than 40 diplomatic shipments had entered the United States under Vega's authority, each labeled as cultural or official materials, each weighing nearly 900 kilograms. None had ever been inspected. Diplomatic immunity had become a shield for crime. The FBI now faced a legal barrier. The evidence was overwhelming, but Vega remained protected by international law. A classified interagency briefing was convened. Intelligence, Justice Department officials, and federal leadership reviewed the findings. For the first time in modern American history, a decision of unprecedented gravity was made. Diplomatic immunity, long considered an inviolable shield, would be revoked prior to a federal operation. S government authorized a tactical assault on a foreign diplomatic compound, fully aware of the international ramifications. The clock moved with precision, every detail meticulously planned, every potential risk calculated. This was not merely an operation, it was a statement. No title, no office, no flag could place individuals above the law when their actions endangered American lives and sovereignty. Under the cover of darkness, a combined force of FBI tactical teams and a Marine Rapid Response Unit encircled the Mexican diplomatic compound. Marines formed a silent, disciplined outer ring. Each perimeter checkpoint was manned, every possible exit secured, ensuring no ingress or egress could be attempted. Surveillance drones hovered silently, feeding real-time video back to command centers. The FBI agents, equipped with night vision optics, breaching gear, and sealed warrants unprecedented in both scope and authority, advanced cautiously toward the main entrance. Every step was choreographed. Every possible scenario anticipated. A controlled breaching charge tore through the reinforced steel doors, sending clouds of dust rolling across the marble courtyard. The echo of the explosion reverberated through the surrounding neighborhood, a stark signal that the shield of diplomatic protection had been pierced. Almost immediately, gunfire erupted from within the compound. Private contractors, heavily armed and trained in tactical engagement, had been hired by Ambassador Alejandro Cruz Vega to defend the premises at any cost. Bullets ricocheted off walls, splintered marble, and shattered glass as agents returned fire, advancing in tight formations with shields raised and flashbangs deployed to disorient and neutralize threats. The firefight lasted for tense minutes that felt like hours. Every corridor, every room, every stairwell was cleared methodically. Once the immediate threat was neutralized, the operation shifted focus to uncovering the hidden layers of the criminal network embedded within the compound. In the basement, investigators encountered rows of medical coolers, each meticulously labeled, containing preserved human organs prepared for trafficking. Adjacent rooms revealed industrial narcotics processing equipment, chemical drums, high-capacity presses, and ventilation systems cleverly disguised as maintenance conduits. Pallets of fentanyl, methamphetamine, and heroin were discovered, stacked in quantities sufficient to supply multiple states for months, potentially causing thousands of overdoses if left unseized. Hidden behind a false wall, agents discovered $67 million in bundled cash, neatly stacked, evidence of extensive laundering operations linked to offshore accounts. Ambassador Vega himself was apprehended attempting to flee through a service corridor. His diplomatic immunity had been nullified. No flag, no treaty, no international protocol could shield him from the consequences of his actions. Law enforcement history. Simultaneously, coordinated raids struck safe houses, warehouses, and financial fronts across Texas, seizing vehicles, freezing bank accounts, and detaining key associates of the network. Within hours, a sprawling criminal infrastructure that had operated with impunity collapsed entirely. Yet even as arrests were made and evidence secured, investigators turned their attention to the broader, human dimension of the network's operations. Medical examiner records, once accepted at face value, were revisited. Deaths previously classified as natural causes or unexplained incidents were now linked directly to trafficking routes and the illicit operations of the network. Missing persons reports matched shipment manifests, revealing patterns of exploitation, trafficking, and in some cases, organized murder. Families across Texas had lived for years in quiet anguish, unaware that the unexplained disappearances and sudden deaths were symptomatic of a sprawling criminal enterprise. Border towns that had reported rising disappearances, sometimes attributed to migration or chance, were now understood as nodes in an extensive human trafficking network. Suburban hospitals had quietly documented surges in overdoses, particularly fentanyl, that far exceeded prior trends. Schools reported increasingly potent narcotics circulating among students. Every incident, once considered isolated or coincidental, was now clearly part of a deliberately engineered supply chain emanating from diplomatic channels. Internal reviews exposed systemic failures within federal and local institutions. Multiple warnings had been filed, reports had been made, yet agencies operated in isolation, seeing fragments of the truth but never the full picture. A culture of misplaced trust had replaced scrutiny. Senior officials had deferred to reputation, believing that titles such as former CIA director or foreign ambassador guaranteed integrity. Local officers, constrained by protocol or fear of political repercussion, dismissed red flags. The result? A network thriving in plain sight, shielded not only by law but by complacency. Protocols were overhauled in response. Diplomatic shipments now undergo rigorous weight audits, ensuring that cargo matches declared contents, even when labeled under official cover. Interagency data sharing has been completely restructured, creating centralized databases capable of identifying anomalies across intelligence, customs, and law enforcement channels. Medical examiners received new guidelines to identify deaths potentially linked to trafficking and chemical exposure. Community reporting channels were expanded, ensuring that tips from residents could no longer be ignored or siloed. Evan Marshall's actions, once dismissed and tragically penalized by his untimely death, were recognized as the catalyst that exposed this criminal enterprise. His diligence, attention to detail, and commitment to ethical duty initiated a chain reaction that ultimately dismantled a sophisticated operation that had poisoned communities for nearly a decade. Although the cost was devastating, the exposure of this network demonstrated the power of accountability, vigilance, and persistent investigative work. The implications of this operation extend far beyond Texas. The operation set a precedent. No individual, no matter their office or international standing, is above the law. Diplomatic privilege, once considered inviolable, cannot be abused to shield organized crime. The operation demonstrated that power without oversight is not merely dangerous. It is destructive, capable of infiltrating institutions, corrupting officials, and endangering citizens. Moreover, the investigation revealed that the greatest threats do not always arrive at national borders. Sometimes they emerge quietly, hidden within the very institutions entrusted to uphold safety and justice. Intelligence, diplomacy, and law enforcement, when compromised, can provide cover for criminal enterprises operating at global scale. The Vega Reeves network exploited these vulnerabilities, demonstrating how expertise, authority, and trust can be weaponized to perpetrate atrocities without immediate detection. This historic operation also underscored the need for institutional resilience. Accountability measures, transparency, interagency cooperation, and community engagement that are essential to preventing similar threats. Comprehensive audits, continuous oversight, and the integration of citizen reports with federal intelligence channels are now recognized as indispensable safeguards against corruption and exploitation. It is a recognition that institutional vigilance must be active, not passive, that systemic integrity requires constant attention, not periodic review. The human impact of this network, previously obscured by layers of secrecy and corruption, is now being documented. Families affected by disappearances, overdoses, and organized exploitation are receiving long overdue attention. Communities are beginning the slow process of recovery,